Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. Earlier today, I shared with members of the House of Assembly summary results of a performance audit conducted to assess the quality of teaching, learning, and culture in our middle schools. The audit was conducted during the 2013-14 academic year. I also detailed a middle school transformation plan that comprises 10 key action points developed to strategically improve teaching and learning in our middle schools over the next 3 years. At this time, I'd like to take the opportunity to inform the general public that the promise made during the past school year to address concerns about middle school education is being kept. The extensive audit process undertaken and the development of the Middle School Transformation Plan is in direct support of the Ministry of Education's mission to deliver a rigorous curriculum that meets the needs of all students and improves student learning experiences. A quality education in the 21st century is our aim. The middle school audit process demonstrated the ministry's continued commitment to its students, parents, and the broader community, and of course to Bermuda as a whole, to improve overall student achievement and learning. There are three main components of the middle school audit process which I will comment on: its objectives, the summary audit results, and the middle school transformation plan. Let me start with the objective of the audits. During the 2013-14 school year, the Department of Education undertook an ambitious plan to audit all schools in the public system. After listening to the concerned voices of parents, educators, and the general public, a decision was taken to conduct audits starting first with our 5 middle schools. The goals for the audit were threefold. Firstly, to provide middle schools and the Department of Education with a comprehensive analysis of student learning, teaching, and leadership. Secondly, to build firsthand a collective understanding of the strengths and challenges faced to the schools. And thirdly, to provide direction for system support services needed to improve teaching and learning outcomes, grow leadership capacity, improve the school climate, and engender community support. The audit process was based on leading research conducted by the Association of Middle Level Education, or AMLE as it's called. The AMLE model is designed to transform normal schools into high-performance schools, resulting in engaged and motivated students. The model incorporates 16 characteristics for successful middle schools that are arranged into 3 broadly based areas of performance, and those are curriculum, instruction, and assessment, leadership and organization, and thirdly, community and culture. So, what were the audit results? Overall, the results of the middle school audits revealed that across all 5 middle schools, there were gaps and deficiencies that showed little evidence of the 16 characteristics in the areas of curriculum instruction and assessment and leadership and organization. But there was, however, moderate evidence of the 16 success characteristics in the area of community and culture, where there was a sense of support and advocacy for students. In fact, most middle schools were viewed as safe places with a sense of family and community. So it is quite evident that there are needed development areas that exist at the middle school level, and having this factual benchmark audit data provides us with the impetus to target and drive change within our middle schools and transform them into high-performing schools. Let me turn now to the Middle School Transformation Plan for 2014. So, toward this end, the audit findings were used to develop a 10-point middle school transformation plan. There are 10 high-impact actions which will be implemented during the 2014 school academic year to address the deficiencies identified in the audit findings and to improve overall student learning and teaching over the next 3 years. These 10 actions link directly to the 16 characteristics of successful middle schools, and the broad performance groups are as follows. And I'm going to go through the 10, but I'm going to start, first of all, with actions 1 to 4, which speak to leadership and organization. So action 1 is to develop a 21st century vision for middle school education. Number 2 is to provide school leadership teams with specific training to lead school improvement. Number 3, to use a common bell schedule with standard times and opportunities for student learning, intervention, teaming, and advocacy. Number 4 is to implement a structure for the delivery of high-quality lessons across all schools and subjects. With respect to actions 5 to 7, which address curriculum, instruction, and assessment, number 5 is to eliminate ability tracking to ensure that all students have access to high-quality learning experiences. Number 6 is to provide focused professional development on creating active, rigorous, and engaged learning experiences to all teachers and school leaders. Number 7 is to ensure all students have academic interventions if they fail classes within the first quarter. Actions 8 and 9 speak to community and culture. Number 8 is to establish a mandatory standard which clearly defines readiness for transition into and out of middle schools. Number 9 establishes a comprehensive behavior intervention program in every middle school. And then finally, Action 10 speaks to curriculum instruction and assessment, and that is to raise the qualification standard for all middle school teachers within 3 years. Details of these 10 action points and how the ministry will implement the transformation plan are included in the ministerial statement, and a detailed report of the middle school transformation plan will also be made public. A report on the audit findings will be found on the ministry website at www.moed.bm. I'd like to thank the middle school principals, leaders, and educators for working with the department to complete and implement this very important transformation plan to improve our schools. Before concluding, I will add that the release of the summary audit results and the middle school transformation plan is the start of a series of initiatives that the ministry plans to implement. We will be updating parents, school PTAs, and the general public during the summer months and leading into the 2014-15 academic year. In conclusion, I encourage all stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, principals, unions, and the general public to collaborate with the Ministry of Education so that together we bring about a transformation in our middle schools for improving student achievement and student outcomes. I will now turn the podium over to the Acting Commissioner of Education, Dr. Lou Matthews, and the Acting Director of Standards, Accountability and Assessment, Dr. Freddie Evans, to share more information about the need for greater collaboration and partnering as we progress the middle school transformation plan. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Minister. The Minister has outlined the Department of Education's middle school transformation plan. This transformation plan identified 10 high-impact actions necessary to improve the learning outcomes of students in our middle schools. I take this opportunity to further emphasize the 3 key messages in that transformation plan. 1, the transformation plan represents a fundamental shift from teacher-centered learning to powerful, engaging, student-centered learning. 2, the transformation plan requires all students to have opportunities for success by providing the right kinds of academic intervention and framing and targeting in a very intent and deliberate way positive student behavior in schools. 3, the transformation embraces a commitment to equip all teachers and all leaders in our middle schools to help students reach their potential. The stakes for all of us are high. In September, my young cousin will be entering his first year in one of our middle schools and will be a student there for the next 3 years. I, along with every middle school parent and family member, have a personal stake in ensuring that the 10 actions mentioned will ensure that he and every middle school student currently enrolled or joining us in September is successful. My concern is no different from many of the public who will view this transformation plan. We all have a similar story of vested interest in ensuring that each middle school student from this moment on will be in a classroom where he or she is engaged and supported every day, in a school where leaders' highest priority is high quality instruction, and in a system where there is a clear vision of first-class education for students in this age group. The transformation plan will resonate with teachers and parents. Middle school parents have been instrumental in recognizing the challenges in our middle schools and then participating in a meaningful way in interviews, and lastly, in determining these 10 high-impact actions. The transformation plan will also resonate with school principals who now have a clear direction forward for our middle schools. They have worked tirelessly with the Department of Education to craft the transformation actions. The transformation plan will also resonate with department leaders and educators because it harnesses the best of what we know about the education of 10 to 15-year-olds globally. We know that in order to get the best out of our schools and students, we must raise our standards for leadership, set clear expectations, and monitor those expectations at the school and system level. Lastly, the plan will resonate with the Bermuda public, whose interest in the education of middle-level students over the last 17 years has been well documented. But a plan of action is not action itself. In order for us to be successful, we must move from words to action. The Department of Education's acting director, standing to my left, Acting Director of Standards and Accountability, Dr. Freddie Evans, and his assistant directors, Ms. Laverne Simons and Terry Cox, will be leading the transformation efforts directly. Principals and their leadership teams, along with teachers and parents and department support, will abide by clear expectations, actions, and measurable outcomes articulated in the plan. The work has already begun, but its success depends on our effort over the next several months. We have set as our benchmark an increase in the number of students passing critical subjects like math and science and English and social studies over the next 10 months by 10%. To be successful, teachers and principals must make sure every lesson utilizes the best strategies available to identify and close academic gaps. In order to increase mathematics and English scores by 5% over the next year, department leaders and principals must work together to ensure that every teacher is clear on what good teaching of mathematics and English looks like and can implement these kinds of lessons of a high standard every day. The middle school transformation plan calls for a change in the culture of classrooms across the system from traditional to 21st century focused. It calls for dramatic improvements in the way educators plan, teach, and structure the environments we expect kids to learn in. 9 months from today, we anticipate sharing a story about the transformation of our leadership, our instruction, our culture, and it will begin with these 10 powerful actions. The work to be done will not be on paper. It will be accomplished in schools every day by teachers and by students, by principals and by department leaders, working side by side in the very same way we have in the last 2 months in creating this plan. I know it is possible because we have an interest in children, and so we ask for your support. 10 actions, 1 goal, student success. Thank you.
All right, members of the media, we're about to take questions. Anybody have a question, Cooper? Cooper Stevens,
start
the
now.
World Gazette.
Hi there, Minister. You mentioned eliminating ability tracking to ensure that all students have access to high-quality learning experiences. I'm sure you addressed it in your ministerial statement, but could you expand on that a bit right now?
Yeah, I think what we're talking about there is some of the middle schools start to segregate students into different areas of ability. And I think, as the statement said in the House this morning, that has been shown to basically not provide what I would call as a good environment for those students. Rather than segregating students into different ability zones, the idea is that it should not be so much teacher-centered, but more student-centered, to be able to work with different abilities in the same classroom so they all get the benefit of good teachers and good instruction. It's a real shift, I think, for some of the schools in terms of how students have been taught up to this point. But it comes out of the Association of Middle Schools 16 characteristics that we refer to.
And it will be is this transformation plan addressing learning difficulties in any other way for young children?
I think, Cooper, you'll be aware that we had a green paper that came out sort of last year on inclusiveness, and I think that also speaks to the broader issues of dealing with children with various learning and other issues. But the answer is yes, all of that will be part of this program. I don't know whether you want to comment any more on that, or?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
One of the things that it's really critical for our system is that we address academic interventions. And we will be implementing, in fact, across all schools, but with specific focus in the middle schools, a system of behavior and academic interventions. And what that basically does, it increases with intensity our efforts to engage students with learning difficulties from very early on, from the classroom to those students who need a bit of extra support by way of proven research-based interventions. But also those students who are probably at highest risk and need not only proven research interventions, but other supports that may go in and around the school setting. And so one of the actions in the transformation plan speaks to the depth of interventions that we will be doing for what I might add, the first time since in the last 17 years. We're going to be guaranteeing interventions for all students who struggle and who fail within the first quarter of school at the middle level.
Just going on from there, one more time, two more questions. In terms of learning disabilities, you say somebody like has ADHD. About 15 years ago, the medical recommendation would be to prescribe medication, but that has shifted greatly these days towards, intervention and towards teaching young people how to deal with ADHD rather than medicating them. Is that sort of what you're hinting at? It's a kind of a holistic approach. I'm just trying to get a little bit more specific in what you mean by academic intervention.
Okay. Yeah, you better.
Well, when we say academic interventions, we're specifically talking about students that struggle in subjects like mathematics, English, social science, and the like. It could be for a host of reasons. And you're quite right. What we have learned in the last 15 years is that it's not so much about segregating students, as the minister alluded to. It's more about how do we modify, change, broaden, reteach our instruction. It's about teaching. How do we shift teaching and learning to a space so that it accommodates students of a diverse range of academic challenges and abilities in ways that honor who they are, not necessarily by segregating, which can have very negative impact on their student achievement and their identities.
Right. And then lastly, when might we expect the audit findings to be published on the Ministry of Education's website?
I was told later on today.
Okay.
So we'll see. I don't know if there's an update on that or not, but
It will be later on today.
yeah.
Alrighty, great.
Cooper, let me just say that there's an old adage which I like, which is how do you have a successful education system? And there are three pieces. The first is get the best teachers. The second is get the best out of those teachers. And the third is jump in quickly when students get behind. And I think what you'll find is this 10-point plan addresses all those issues, obviously in a more detailed way. But I think that's where we're headed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Cooper. Trevor from Bermuda Broadcasting.
What will be your benchmark to know that this new plan is working? How would you know that it's working? That's one.
Well, I think the simple answer is we'd like to see improved student results over the next couple of years. But I think the gentleman behind me and the permanent secretary sitting here as well will be key in terms of making sure that principals and teachers follow through on this implementation plan, and I think everybody is held accountable. But I think at the end of the day, it's student outcomes that we're most concerned about.
What do you have in place to deal with those that have the behavioral problems?
Well, in a more detailed statement, which I read to the House this morning, there is a new behavioral system which is the acronym is PBIS, which will be implemented in the fall. And I'm going to let the gentleman standing behind me perhaps talk a little bit more about that. But suffice it to say that behavioral issues are incredibly important for us. I think all schools should be safe, secure environments, not only for students, but also for teachers as well. And I think that's something that clearly is a very critical part of these 10 points. But I'm going to let them elaborate on the plan.
I'm going to ask Dr. Evans to talk to your first question, and that is, how are we monitoring the transformation plan, particularly given the stakeholders with our expectations of practice?
Good afternoon, all. As Dr. Matthews has referred, we in the department have articulated a expectation of practice which elicits what we are going to do in the department to monitor our success, what principals are going to do to ensure success, and how we measure outcomes with teachers. Our data collection starts the first day students come in. We want to hit students who are unsuccessful as early as possible to create those interventions. And because he allowed me to stand up here, it's a good segue to your second question. Our biggest concern is disengagement. That's when you start to see behaviors become apparent. So we want to ensure our students are engaged and feel that this is rigorous education and feel like it's a part of them. And so that's why we're changing the mindset. As behaviors start to manifest themselves, then we have what the minister and Dr. Matthews has referred to, PBIS, which is a different relationship with students. Chazia Calloway, our Assistant Director for Learning Support, is heading that up. And what we're doing is ensuring that teachers have a different approach for adolescent learning, ensuring that these adolescents have a buy-in, have an adult who helps them to understand their place in the community and why the development is so important and how they're going to find themselves to be vital members of community. Discipline is always going to occur, but we do want students to know, I've made a mistake, but I'm not a bad person, and I can grow from that mistake. And through the PBIS training with teachers, that's what we do. We make a mistake, we come back, we move on, and we get about the business of learning.